Hey everyone, ready to get a little weird today.
Always up for a little weirdness.
Today we're taking a deep dive into time travel. Like I'm actually moving through time, not just like daydreaming about the past or whatever.
Yeah, it's one of those things that feels super sci-fi, but then you find out there's actual physics behind it. Kind of bends your brain a little.
So is this something scientists think is actually possible? Like building a time machine?
Well, we're not quite there yet. But the concept of time travel isn't just fantasy. Some of the basic ideas are rooted in real scientific principles, crazy as it sounds.
Okay, so where do we even start? I remember learning about Einstein's theories of relativity back in school. But honestly, it was a bit over my head. Something about time being relative, not fixed.
You're on the right track. Einstein's theories, especially his theories of relativity, really changed how we understand time. Before Einstein, everyone thought time was this absolute thing, ticking away at the same rate for everyone everywhere. But Einstein showed that time is actually relative. It can change depending on things like speed and gravity. Wait, hold up. So you're saying that time can actually speed up or slow down?
Exactly. And it's not just a theory, it's been proven through experiments. The faster you move, the slower time passes for you compared to someone who's standing still.
So like astronauts on the International Space Station whipping around the Earth all the time, they're actually experiencing time a bit differently than us down here.
Exactly. The difference is super small, but it's measurable. One of the most famous examples of this is something called the twin paradox.
Okay, twin paradox. Lay it on me.
Imagine you have two identical twins. One stays on Earth, just living their life. The other twin hops on a spaceship and blasts off into space, traveling super fast, close to the speed of light. When the traveling twin gets back to Earth, they'll actually be younger than their twin who stayed behind.
Whoa, that's seriously messing with my mind. So time isn't just this abstract thing, it actually impacts our physical reality. But that's talking about time slowing down, right? What about going backwards in time, like in Back to the Future or something?
Now that's where things get even more complex and a lot more theoretical. While we've proven that time can slow down, the possibility of backward time travel is still pretty speculative.
So are there any actual theories out there that say it could be possible?
There are. Certain solutions to Einstein's equations suggest some potential ways to travel back in time, though they involve some pretty wild ideas. But like I said, these are just theories.
All right, I'm hooked. What kind of wild ideas are we talking about?
Well, two of the most prominent ones involve things called wormholes and rotating black holes.
Okay, wormholes. I've heard of those. Aren't they like those tunnels through space you see in sci-fi movies, like shortcuts between different parts of the universe?
That's the basic idea. Imagine folding a piece of paper in half and poking a hole through both sides. That's kind of a simplified way to think about a wormhole. A shortcut through space-time connecting distant points. Now, theoretically, if one end of a wormhole was moving super fast, close to the speed of light, time would pass differently at each end.
Wait, so you're saying you could step into one end of the wormhole, like today, and come out the other end in the past?
Yeah, that's the idea. But there are a few major problems. First of all, we don't even know for sure that wormholes actually exist. They're hypothetical solutions to equations, but we've never actually observed one. And even if they do exist, keeping a wormhole stable and open long enough to travel through it would likely require some kind of exotic matter with negative energy density, which we haven't found in the real world.
So it's kind of like having a treasure map, but you don't know if the island is real, and then you find out you need a magic boat to get there anyway.
Pretty much.
Okay, so wormholes, maybe not so likely. What about those rotating black holes you mentioned?
Giant black holes, those are pretty intense objects.
Yeah.
Even without the time travel aspect, their gravity is so strong that not even light can escape them.
Yeah, I've heard they can really warp space-time in crazy ways.
They do. And that's where the time travel idea comes in. Some physicists believe that the immense gravity and spin of a rotating black hole could distort space-time so much that it could create these things called closed time-like curves.
Closed time-like curves? Sounds intense.
They are. Essentially, it's like a loop in time. And these loops could theoretically allow for backward time travel. But again, it's highly, highly speculative.
So both wormholes and rotating black holes are still pretty theoretical when it comes to time travel. But even if we could figure out a way to travel back in time, wouldn't that cause a ton of problems? You hear about those paradoxes, where someone goes back in time and accidentally prevents their own birth.
You're talking about the grandfather paradox, which is one of the biggest brain twisters when you start thinking about time travel.
Yeah, exactly. Imagine if you went back in time and I don't know, accidentally stopped your grandfather from meeting your grandmother, that means you would never have been born, right?
Right, and that's the paradox. If you were never born, then you couldn't have gone back in time to change things in the first place. It creates a mind-boggling contradiction.
Okay, so how do physicists even begin to try to solve that? It seems impossible.
Well, there are a few fascinating theories out there that attempt to resolve these paradoxes. One idea is the concept of alternate timelines, or parallel universes.
So instead of changing your original timeline, you're creating a whole new one.
Exactly. It suggests that any time a change is made in the past, it doesn't alter the original timeline. Instead, it creates a new branching timeline. So in the grandfather paradox example, you wouldn't actually erase yourself from existence. You might just shift into a new timeline where you were never born.
So there'd be one timeline where you exist and another where you don't, and you've basically jumped between them.
That's the basic idea. Another possible solution is something called the self-correcting universe theory.
Self-correcting, like the universe has spell check.
Kind of. This theory suggests that the universe itself has a way of preventing paradoxes from happening. It's like it has a built-in safeguard to maintain consistency.
So, like, if you try to go back and prevent your grandparents from meeting, maybe you miss your flight or spill coffee on yourself at the crucial moment, something always gets in the way to prevent a paradox.
Yeah, something like that. And then there's the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics.
Quantum mechanics. This is getting complicated.
It is a bit complex.
Yeah.
Think of it this way. Imagine you come to a fork in the road, and you have to choose a path. Each choice creates a split, where there's now a reality where you took one path and a reality where you took the other. The many worlds interpretation suggests this happens constantly on a quantum level.
Whoa. So you're saying every decision, every tiny action creates a whole new universe?
Essentially, yes. So, yeah, there are some wild theories out there.
Okay, so it sounds like we're not building time machines anytime soon, but are there any scientists out there who are actually trying to make it happen? Like, is there any real-world research that's even close to this stuff?
Well, nothing that's going to let us hop into a DeLorean and visit the dinosaurs. But there are a few areas of research that touch on these concepts. One example is the Large Hadron Collider, which is this gigantic particle accelerator.
Oh yeah, I remember when that first started up, there were all these rumors that it might accidentally create a black hole and swallow the Earth.
Yeah, there was some concern about that, but that was unfounded. However, some people did think the Large Hadron Collider might, under the right conditions, produce microscopic black holes, or even particles called tachyons.
Tachyons, what are those?
Tachyons are theoretical particles that move faster than light. And some people thought that tachyons, if they exist, could be linked to time travel.
So could mini black holes or tachyons really lead to time travel?
That was the thinking. But so far, no evidence of either has been found at the Large Hadron Collider.
Okay, so it seems like having a time machine parked in my garage is still a pretty distant dream. But all of this makes you wonder, even if we could travel back in time, wouldn't it be super risky? I mean, think about the potential consequences for society. It seems like there'd be a ton of ethical questions to consider.
You're absolutely right. The ethical implications of time travel are huge. It's definitely something we need to explore more.
Yeah, I think my brain is already overloaded for now. We've covered a lot of ground today.
Definitely. It's a big topic, and we've only just scratched the surface.
Well, we'll be back to dive even deeper into the mysteries and possibilities of time travel after a short break. Okay, so we're back, and my head is still spinning a little from all that time travel talk. Before the break, we were just starting to touch on the ethics of it all. It seems like if time travel were to become real, it would open up a whole Pandora's box of ethical dilemmas.
Absolutely. It's a real ethical minefield. I mean, think about it. If you could change the past, who gets to decide what changes are okay? And how can you even begin to predict the unintended consequences?
It's like that whole butterfly effect thing, right? One tiny change could ripple out and have huge, unpredictable effects on the future.
Exactly. Imagine, like, someone goes back in time and tries to prevent a major war, right? On the surface, that sounds like a good thing. But what if preventing that war actually leads to even bigger conflicts later on? Or what if it sets humanity back in some way we don't even realize?
Yeah, it's like a cosmic game of Jenga. You pull out the wrong piece and the whole tower collapses. Okay, let's shift gears for a sec. We've talked about the science and the ethics, but what about the actual experience of time travel? Like, what do you think it would feel like? Would it be like walking through a door? Or more like, I don't know, a wild roller coaster ride through space-time?
That's a great question, and it's something that sci-fi loves to play around with. Sometimes it's a swirling vortex, sometimes it's a flash of light, sometimes people walk through mirrors. But the truth is, we have no idea what it would actually feel like.
I guess that makes sense. I mean, we don't experience some crazy visual effect when we travel through space, even though space is pretty mind-blowing in its own right.
Exactly. And remember, time is really just another dimension, like the 3 spatial dimensions we experience every day. So maybe moving through time would feel more like moving through space, rather than some kind of magical transition.
So maybe instead of a swirling vortex, it would be more like walking down a hallway, but the hallway represents time itself.
It's possible. Or maybe it would be something we can't even comprehend with our current understanding of physics.
Okay, now my brain is really hurting, but in a good way. So let's say, hypothetically speaking, you had a time machine and you could go anywhere in time. Where would you go? What moment in history would you want to experience firsthand?
It's a tough one. There are so many incredible moments throughout history. I've always been fascinated by ancient civilizations. So maybe I'd go back to ancient Egypt and see the pyramids being built. Or maybe ancient Rome during its peak.
Oh man, I'd love to see the Library of Alexandria before it was destroyed. Imagine all the knowledge that was lost, or maybe even further back, to the time of the dinosaurs.
That would be amazing. To think, if time travel were possible, we could actually witness events that we only know about through books and artifacts.
But wouldn't that bring up another ethical dilemma? If we could travel to the past, wouldn't we risk altering it just by being there? Even if we tried really hard not to interfere, our mere presence could have unintended consequences.
You're absolutely right. It's like the observer effect, but on a much larger scale.
Yeah.
Just by observing something, we become a part of it, and that could potentially change the course of events.
It's a lot to think about, but I guess that's part of what makes time travel so fascinating, right? It challenges everything we think we know about reality, about time itself, about our place in the universe.
Totally. And who knows? Maybe someday, science will catch up with our imaginations, and time travel will move from the realm of sci-fi into reality.
Until then, we'll just have to keep exploring the possibilities and pondering the big questions. But hey, that's half the fun, right?
Absolutely. I think that's what makes this whole topic so captivating. It forces us to think outside the box and consider things we might never have thought about otherwise.
It's a good reminder to stay curious and keep an open mind. Well, we've covered a lot of ground today. We've explored the science, the paradoxes, the ethical dilemmas.
And we haven't even touched on the philosophical implications.
Yeah, that's a whole other rabbit hole. But for now, I think we're gonna have to leave it there.
Agreed.
But don't worry, folks. We'll be back soon with another deep dive into the mysteries of the universe.
I know, right? It really makes you think. This whole conversation has been like a workout for my brain. In a good way, of course.
It's definitely a topic that gets the gears turning.
Okay, so I've got to ask, if someone, hypothetically of course, stumbled upon a working time machine, what's the one piece of advice you would give them? That's a good one. You know, if I had to give one piece of advice to a time traveler, it would be this. Observe, but don't interfere.
Observe, but don't interfere. Got it. So, don't try to change the past.
Right. Treat the past or even the future like a delicate ecosystem.
Yeah.
Because even small actions could have huge ripple effects that you can't predict.
So basically, be a time-traveling anthropologist. Go on an awesome adventure through history, but hands off everything.
Exactly. Think of yourself as a tourist visiting a foreign country. You can look around, soak it all in, but you respect the local customs and you don't go messing things up.
Right, right. Like that saying, take only pictures, leave only footprints, except maybe not even footprints in this case.
Yeah, because even footprints could theoretically change things. Time travel would require a level of responsibility that we might not even be capable of.
It's heavy stuff to think about. But I guess that's part of what makes time travel so intriguing, right? It makes you question everything.
It really does. It makes you think about cause and effect, free will, our impact on the world. All these big questions that we're still grappling with.
Wow. Okay, so maybe time travel isn't just about zipping around to see cool stuff. It's also about, a deeper understanding of our place in the universe.
Exactly. And maybe that's the real value of thinking about time travel, even if we never actually achieve it. It pushes us to think about the big questions, the things we might not consider in our everyday lives.
I like that. It's a good reminder to stay curious, keep asking questions, and keep an open mind. Well, this has been an awesome conversation. We've covered so much ground today, from Einstein's theories to wormholes, paradoxes, ethical dilemmas.
And we didn't even get into all the philosophical implications. That's a whole other deep dive for another day.
Definitely. Well, we've got to wrap things up for today, but thanks again for taking us on this journey. It's been mind-blowing.
It's been my pleasure. Always happy to chat about time travel.
And to all our listeners, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into time travel. We hope you learned some cool stuff, had your mind bent a little, and maybe even came up with some of your own questions about the mysteries of time in the universe.
And remember, if you ever do find a time machine, be careful out there. Those paradoxes are lurking in the shadows of space-time.
That's right. But for now, keep exploring, keep those brains buzzing, and who knows, maybe we'll see you in the past or the future. This is The Deep Dive, signing off.